Hello, true crime fans. Welcome back to Crime Daily Dose, the channel where we explore the darkest corners of human history. Today, we've got a bone-chilling episode for you, featuring the 9 worst female serial killers of all time. Get ready to have your mind blown as we uncover the twisted tales of these lethal ladies. Often underestimated, they shattered every stereotype, leaving a trail of destruction and despair in their tracks. Grab your blankets, lock your doors, and hit that subscribe button because things are about to get real creepy real fast. Number 9. Belle Gunness was born in 1859 in Norway and then immigrated to the United States in 1881. She married multiple times and had several children, many of whom died under mysterious circumstances. She was believed to have killed at least 14 people, including her own children and husbands. Gunness was known for placing marriage ads in newspapers seeking wealthy suitors for their money and property. She would lure these men to her farm in Indiana, where she would kill them and bury their remains. She disappeared in 1908 after a fire destroyed her farmhouse, and many people believe she faked her own death to escape the law. Number 8. Dorothea Puente, also known as Death House Landlady, was born in Redlands, California in 1929. You probably wouldn't be too shocked to learn that Dorothea had a troubled childhood. With both of her parents alcoholics, her father repeatedly threatened to commit suicide in front of his children. Her father died of tuberculosis in 1937. Her mother, who worked as a sex worker, lost custody of them in 1938 and died in a motorcycle accident. Puente and her siblings were then sent to an orphanage, where Dorothea was sexually abused. From then on, she spent much of her life in and out of jail. In the 80s, she ran a boarding house for elderly and mentally disabled people in Sacramento. It was here she would carry out her horrific crimes. Puente poisoned her residents with medication overdoses and buried them in her yard. She then collected their government checks, which amounted to thousands of dollars. Her crimes went undetected for several years until a social worker became suspicious and contacted the police. In 1988, Puente was arrested and charged with the murder of 9 people. She was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She died in jail in 2011. Number 7. Jane Toppan. Born in Massachusetts in 1857, Jane trained as a nurse and worked in several hospitals throughout her career. Little did people know, Toppan had a secret dark side. She enjoyed using drugs to sedate and kill her patients. Over the course of her career, Toppan killed at least 31 people, although the actual number could be much higher. She used a combination of drugs, including morphine and atropine, to kill her victims. She often watched them die and enjoyed the feeling of power it gave her. Toppan's crimes went under the radar for years until she confessed to all of them in 1901. Unfortunately, she was acquitted by reason of insanity and spent the rest of her life in a mental institution. She later died in 1938. Number 6. Aileen Wuornos was an American female serial killer born in 1956 in Michigan, USA. Reportedly, she was sexually abused as a child by her grandfather and his friends. She then became a prostitute when she was a teenager and turned to robbery and theft in order to get by. Between 1989 and 1990, Wuornos killed at least 7 men by shooting them at point-blank range, claiming she acted in self-defense after they tried to sexually abuse her. However, evidence suggested that some of these murders were premeditated. In 1991, she was convicted of 7 murders and sentenced to death. She was executed by lethal injection in 2002. Number 5. Mary Ann Cotton. Born in 1832 in County Durham, England. It's now becoming a common theme in this video, but Mary Ann had a troubled childhood too. She married 4 times, with each husband dying under suspicious circumstances. She also had 13 children, 11 of whom died before the age of 10. Cotton was known for her charm and persuasive personality, which allowed her to get away with her crimes for many years. Cotton reportedly killed up to 21 people, including her own children and stepchildren, in the mid-19th century. She used arsenic to poison her victims and collected life insurance payouts after their deaths. She was the OG life insurance fraudster. She was finally caught in 1873 and was found guilty of multiple counts of murder. She was hanged for her crimes in the same year. Number 4. Nannie Doss, also known as the Giggling Granny, was born in Alabama in 1905 and was married 5 times. Doss wasn't caught for years because she moved frequently, and her murders were perceived as natural deaths. However, in 1954, one of her daughters grew suspicious and contacted the police. After a lengthy investigation, Doss was arrested and confessed to killing 4 of her husbands, her grandson, her mother, her sister, and her mother-in-law. She used arsenic and rat poison to poison all of them. During her trial, Doss claimed that she killed her husbands because they were abusive, and that she killed her other family members because she didn't want to take care of them. She was sentenced to life in prison in 1955 and died in jail 10 years later from leukemia. Number 3. Juana Barraza, also known as Little Old Lady Killer, was born in 1957 in Hidalgo, Mexico, and was a former professional wrestler under the name La Dama del Silencio, or the Lady of Silence. Juana's childhood hasn't been the easiest, to put it lightly. Her mother was an alcoholic who reportedly traded her for 3 beers. The man on the other end of the trade abused her repeatedly and eventually got her pregnant with a son. In her criminal days, Barraza targeted women over 60 years old and often lived alone. She killed them by bludgeoning or strangling them with either a stethoscope or a cord after taking everything they had. To gain the trust of her victims, Barraza pretended to be a government official who worked in social welfare. After an investigation that went on for years, Barraza was arrested in 2006. During her trial in 2008, the prosecution suggested that Barraza could have been responsible for as many as 40 deaths. Although she confessed to 1 murder, Barraza explained to the police that her motivation stemmed from bitterness towards her own mother's mistreatment of her. On March 31st, Barraza was found guilty of 16 charges of murder and aggravated burglary, which included 11 individual counts of murder. She was sentenced to 759 years in prison, which is the longest sentence in Mexican history. Number 2. Our runner-up case is a bit different, as she did not commit her crimes on her own. Myra Hindley was born in 1942 in Manchester, England. While working as a typist, she met Ian Brady, and the two began a romantic relationship. They both shared a fascination with Nazi ideology and a desire to commit the perfect crime. Together, they abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered 5 children aged 10 to 17 between 1963 and 1965. She was then convicted in 1966 and sentenced to spend the rest of her life in prison. In 2002, Hindley died from bronchial pneumonia. Her ex-partner scattered her ashes in a country park near Saddleworth Moor, where the murders took place, leading to controversy and fears of vandalism. Number 1. Elizabeth Báthory, a Hungarian noblewoman born in the year 1560 in Hungary. She was married to a wealthy nobleman and had several children. Báthory was known for her cruelty towards her servants and would often beat or burn them with hot irons. Báthory was accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and women with 4 of her servants between 1590 and 1610. 2 of the servants were put on trial where they were tortured and executed. The 2 other servants had their fingers forcibly removed using a heating tool under extreme fire, a fire that would subsequently burn the rest of their bodies to death. The charges have been described as a witch hunt by some historians, while others claim they were supported by testimony from over 300 individuals. It was also suggested that the accusations against Báthory were a spectacle of destroying her family's influence in the region. Legends about her vampiric tendencies included bathing in the blood of virgins, were recorded years after her death and were considered unreliable. Some believe she inspired Bram Stoker's Dracula, although no direct evidence supports the hypothesis. Báthory is commonly referred to as the Blood Countess or Countess Dracula. She eventually died in 1614 in her castle. As we reach the end of this spine-chilling journey, it's clear that female serial killers can be a force to be reckoned with. Their ability to blend in, avoid suspicion, and deceive those around them makes them uniquely dangerous and unpredictable. Unlike their male counterparts, these lethal ladies tend to kill for cold, calculated reasons, such as financial gain, power, or manipulation. Their weapon of choice? Poison and other silent yet deadly methods. Make no mistake, these female serial killers prove that evil knows no gender, and their gripping stories serve as a reminder that a killer can be hiding in plain sight, or in this case, hiding under a pretty face. See you in the next episode.